Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chapter 3, Section 2.6. In this section, we're going to talk about Civil War and Reconstruction. So we're specifically going to talk about causes of the Civil War, and then we're going to talk about the conduct of the Civil War, or how different pieces of the war that are important to remember. And then we're going to touch some on Reconstruction, which is a period of time that happened after the Civil War. So our main idea for this section is that differences between northern and southern states led to the Civil War. So, as the United States grew in the early 1800s, a powerful division arose within the country. Southerners wanted slavery to be allowed in the new territories in the West. However, abolition, or the movement for ending slavery, was growing in the North. So, Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Southerners who depended on slave labor to run their plantations were afraid that the new president would try and end slavery in the South. As a result, 11 Southern states seceded or formally withdrew from the Union in 1860 and 1861. These states formed the Confederate States of America. Richmond, Virginia became the capital, and Jefferson Davis became the president. So Lincoln declared that the states who had seceded from the United States, remember, secede means to formally withdraw from something, he declared those states in rebellion and vowed to reunite the Union. Soon after this, Confederate troops fired upon Fort Sumter, which is a federal fort located in South Carolina. This event marked the beginning of the Civil War in the United States. A civil war is a war between opposing groups of citizens in the same country. That's important to note because even though we talk about our Civil War being called like the Civil War, there are other civil wars that have happened in other countries that we may touch upon this year and that you will definitely touch upon in other history classes throughout your educational career. So remember that a civil war is just something that happens within a country and doesn't just refer to our Civil War. So the war lasted 4 years from 1861 to 1865. The Confederates, led by General Robert E. Lee, won many early battles. However, the Union had a larger military, a stronger economy, and more resources. So, in the midst of the war on January 1st of 1863, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed all slaves in Confederate territory. Interestingly enough, if memory serves, this just refers to the Confederate territory. It didn't necessarily refer to any of the territories that remained in the Union. So, also in 1863, Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address to honor people who died at Gettysburg in a very key battle that lasted 3 days. These two events helped to highlight the moral purpose to the Civil War. The moral purpose, twofold: freedom and equality. So eventually, the resources and economy of the North proved too strong, and the Confederacy did surrender in 1865. So, racial tensions, desperate poverty, and hostility toward the US government lingered in the South after the war. These problems presented challenges to Reconstruction, which is the effort to rebuild and reunite the states as one nation. Although former slaves have been granted new rights, many white Southerners did not allow them these new freedoms. In fact, the government had to send federal troops to protect former slaves. However, by 1877, Reconstruction abruptly ended. Almost a century passed before the federal government would again protect the civil rights of African Americans. All right, to wrap up, things to remember from the section. The Civil War was fought between the North and the South, predominantly over slavery. There are some people who will say that the Civil War was fought over things other than slavery, like the economy or things like that. Those may be some underlying issues, but the big issue, the main thing that caused the Civil War was slavery. Throughout the Civil War, many U.S. citizens died, and after the Civil War ended, equality and civil rights for African Americans was still not put in place. Many people would say even today that civil rights and equality for African Americans is still not completely put in place in our country. So it definitely did not exist after Reconstruction ended. Thank you guys for listening. Go ahead and check it back in Canvas to see what your next job is, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.